What is going on, sports minds? It's your boy MJ coming at you with yet another waiver wire ad here. I am streaming a bit early today, and that's okay. I want to make sure you guys get a good night's sleep and you're nice and tucked in your bed and very happy, and you wake up in the morning as happy as I am. I don't know about you guys. I wake up early in the morning, and one of the very first things I love to see when I wake up is seeing those waiver wires process, and I get my guys, and I don't just get the one guy, I get multiple guys, right? Because I'm the guy that sets multiple different scenarios. That's what I want to talk about here today. I want to show you guys how you do that. I want to show you what it is you should do and who should be your waiver wire pickups this week. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into that here. So first of all, that you want to pick up, what I would say is if you have multiple guys you want to pick up, you want to put in multiple waiver wire ads. What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining me. You have to have multiple waiver wire ads for the same guy. So that means if you have multiple people, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to set this transaction for the same guy with two or three different players. So basically, at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you could have gotten that player and you missed it because you didn't, in fact, put in the extra work, right? So I will have about 3 or 4 different targets that I go after, and these are the guys that I want to go after every week. And I think some of the guys in my league are tuned in right now. So if you are tuned in, guys, leave me a message. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the love and support. It's always fun. See my guys on there. Thank you very much. But yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into these free agency ads for week 3. I'm going to start off with the third ad that we need to look at. His name is Mr. Andre Osavas. I can't pronounce that correctly. I apologize if I butchered it. It is the Greek god over there in Cincinnati. He had a coming out game, 5 for 7, 52 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, that doesn't sound like great numbers, but if you watch that Cincinnati offense, you would know that they were struggling very much so. And someone that is worth the add. He is actually only rostered in 7% of the leagues. So when I talk about these free agency ads, these are not players that are just available on your free agency just because somebody dropped them, right? I'm talking about players that are 50% or less rostered in ESPN leagues. So right now, this guy's only rostered in 7%. He's averaging 12.2 points a game. And although I don't think the Cincinnati offense is going to be that sustainable throughout the season or that consistent, one thing I have noticed is when teams double team Chase and T. Higgins is having a bad game, Andre is the one that steps up and gets all the looks. So if you're looking for somebody that's going to be a nice flex level player, someone that you're just going to stash, obviously he ain't going to cost you anything. So go ahead and make a pickup for him, put him on your roster, and just sit him for now. He typically won't have a start value until you're like at bye weeks or at injuries, which this season seems to be pretty often. But he's definitely a player that I would roster and would put some priorities over. Now, my second favorite waiver wire ad of the week. Keep in mind, guys, I'm not going to give you too many because this is Tuesday night. When we go into Wednesday, I mean, that stuff, if you don't watch this the night before, you're really not going to get any of this information. So going into Wednesday, what's going to happen is when these process, this video is going to be a day old. And some of you are still going to have the opportunity to pick up a player. And some of you are going to, unfortunately, not. And that's just how the cookie crumbles here in fantasy football. So the next player that I'm going to say is one of my favorite pickups, and I'm sure he's under everyone's radar. Tight end for the Chicago Bears, Cole Kmet. He was absolutely invisible the first 2 games. The last game, he ended up going 10 for 11, 97 yards and a touchdown. And, man, was he Caleb Williams' favorite target. He was on the field. He was getting all the bailouts. Like when Caleb was under trouble, they kept Cole Kmet short. They kept him close, and he was catching everything. He was breaking tackles. He was doing everything he needed to. So he was a really good security blanket, and something tells me he's going to continue to run that role for the year as long as Keenan Allen is out. So even when Keenan Allen comes back, I think there's going to be some issues with consistency. But of course, Cole Kmet's going to continue to be there as at least a 10-point a game tight end. And guys, when we're talking about tight ends, especially considering this year, the way tight ends have been, the more consistent the tight end, the better. You're not going to always get Hail Marys or home runs or touchdowns just off of a tight end, right? Anybody that owns Sam Laporta will tell you that this year, right? Or Travis Kelce owners will tell you that this year. There is no guaranteed tight end must start. Like, there's a few guys that look really good, but at the end of the day, those weren't the guys that you were drafting in the top, 4 or 5 rounds. So that's unfortunately the way it works. And that's why I always say and preach every single year, tight end is a position that you do not need to value so much. Reason being, if you have an injury, it screws you up. I have one league where I ended up drafting Sam Laporta in the 5th round. And guess what? That's my worst team. I could have got a really good wide receiver in the 5th round. I could have got a better running back in the 5th round. But what I do, I got Sam Laporta. I ended up matching him up with, some other players. And unfortunately, that league seems to be my worst one. Even though I'm 1-2, it seems to be the league that's slipping away from me. And I know some of you feel like me. You feel like your league is slipping away. I think waiver wire is the best place to go. Even if you're not able to get the trades you want right now, you pick up the waiver wire, you slip a couple wins in there, maybe a couple good weeks, and you sell high on those players, which is what I do, right? If anybody plays with me, they know I'm always wheeling and dealing. I'm always trying to find the next best deal, and I'm always 2 steps ahead thinking on who is going to be the next guy that I want on my team. Now, doesn't mean that I always win those trades, right? I've had plenty of lost trades over the last few years, but if you target the right free agents and not just think for the moment or just because they had a blow up game, it's definitely going to benefit you long term in your fantasy season. And even if you have injuries, you could still survive them and even make a trade that might even benefit your team. So Cole Kmet was number 2. Now, the top free agency ad for this week. Now, this is going to surprise a lot of people, right? And a lot of people are going to disagree with me. But that's why I do this stuff, right? Because I'm going to say shit that people don't even talk about. Now, number 1 ad this week is going to be Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you saw him play last couple weeks, he's been going off with Dak Prescott. We all know that Dak has a big arm. He has Brandon Cooks as the number 2 target. CeeDee's the number 1 without a doubt. And Jake Ferguson's over there, actually probably on top of Brandon Cooks for the pecking order. But what we've seen recently is that Jalen Tolbert has been getting more snaps. This is his 3rd year in the season. He was supposed to be this top regarded talent, going into here. So it's really nice to know that he is actually finally producing. And man, he is having some good games. The guy is only rostered in 6.4% of leagues. So he qualifies for a free agency ad here or a sleeper ad. He had 3 for 5 for 42 yards and a touchdown last game. And surprisingly, he's averaging 10 points a game, and he's very consistent. Now, he's not scoring as high as Andre Isavas. He's not scoring as much as Cole Kmet, right? He hasn't had big games like that. His numbers aren't flashy. They aren't gaudy. But what I'm looking at is overall big picture, right? So Jalen Tolbert is on a team that is pass heavy. They love to move the ball. They love to pass all day long. So what does that mean? That means that they're going to be passing the ball. Dak is going to be passing the ball all day long. So Brandon Cooks, as you've seen, is kind of cooked, pun intended. Brandon Cooked is more appropriate for his name now because he's a little bit slower. And you can see he's slowly but surely going down that pecking order. And Jalen Tolbert, he blocks. He's young. He has really good hands, and he has really great route running. So I think he actually, like, if you look at his body frame and his style, he actually looks a lot like CeeDee Lamb as far as like how he plays. Now he's on the level of CeeDee Lamb. Don't take my words and twist them, guys. I'm just saying that he looks like somebody that, can run routes and catch and play in the same role that CeeDee Lamb does. So that means that if they have issues with CeeDee Lamb moving him all over the field, they could have Jalen Tolbert on the opposite side. And that's exactly how they've been running him. So if you're looking for somebody that's going to have not just short-term value, but somebody that's going to be long term for the season, I think Jalen Tolbert is going to be somebody that continues to rise up on the fantasy rankings, and he's going to be somebody that's going to continue to get better. But if you have any questions or any comments, please message here below, comment below. I love to hear what you guys think. Again, waiver wires are tomorrow morning. They process for ESPN at 3 a.m. They process for Yahoo at 6:30, 7 a.m. But if you end up missing it, guys, don't worry. There's still plenty of time. Make those ads, and pretty much most of these guys are going to still be available when you wake up. But if you're like me, you're not going to take that chance, guys. Don't risk your bench on possibly missing up for something small. So if you caught this video over here, you like what you see, and you want to see some more, guys, hit the like button, hit the share button, and make sure you do that after tomorrow, because you don't want your opponents to know what moves you're making. You want to make sure they're 2 steps behind you. So, guys, make sure to subscribe, like, follow me, and we'll see you here again, same time, same place next week, guys, for another waiver wire pickup. All right, guys, you have a good one.